I discovered the play about 10 years ago on DVD. You know, it was a captation of the play during the 80s. And when I discovered the play, I thought it was an amazing part for an actress. And at the same time, it was difficult for me to see how to adapt it. I needed time, you know, to know how to have the good point of view on the story. And it was difficult to imagine another actress that the one who created the play, Jacqueline Maillan, who was very popular in France. And because of the last campaign, the presidential campaign in France, for the first time we had a man in front of a woman, in front of Nicolas Sarkozy, Ségolène Royal. And during this campaign, we had a lot of male chauvinist and misogynist attacks against her. So I read again the play, and I thought maybe things didn't change so much in 30 years. So I decided to do the adaptation with that in mind. And the first thing I did actually was to see Catherine Deneuve and to ask her, would you accept to be my Potiche? And she said yes. She loved the story, she loved the character, and she has a lot of sense of humor. And she said to me, you know, this story, it's like an American success story. It's like Rocky, you know, there is an humiliation, and at the end the woman has her revenge. It was important. Without her, I wouldn't have done the film. In France, actually. In England, I would have maybe Helen Mirren or Meryl Streep in America. But in France, only Catherine Deneuve could do this part. Yes, because I wanted to do a comedy, you know, and if I had put the story today, it wouldn't have been a comedy, it would have been a drama about a quiz, about the difficulty between men and women. I wanted to keep this tone of comedy. And the fact, you know, it happens during the 70s, there is a distance, you know, because when you think about the past, you forget all the bad moments, you forget the political context, because actually in France in 77 it was the crisis of all, a lot of kidnapping, a lot of strikes. It was difficult for women, you know, it was the beginning of the fights for the female power. So it was a difficult time, but we have forgotten that. We just forget, we just think about the hair, the costume, the sets, some details of the 70s. And so I thought it was better to let the story during this time. Yes, I like to change, you know, after the film I did before, Either Way was very simple, very dramatic, and with a small crew film. I wanted this time to go back to the spirit of maybe my first movies and some comedies I did before, because sometimes I need good time, you know. I'm not so dramatic every day. Yes, it's really a film about the French history. And the fact to have the couple Catherine Deneuve and Gérard Depardieu, they belong to the history of the French cinema, and the background, the political context is very French, but at the same time the story is universal. You know, it can touch everybody. All the women can recognize themselves in the character of Suzanne Pujol, and it's funny because at the start of the film, we thought the film won't travel, you know, it will be just released in France, but actually the film is booked everywhere, and so I think it can touch many audiences and many countries. I hope so. It was not difficult. It's a risk, you know. It's a risk because sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it's very disturbing for the audience. But it's something I like to do, to try. Actually, you never know if it will work or not. You know, for example, the dance in the Badaboom between Catherine and Gérard. You don't know if it will work. It can be ridiculous, or it can be very touching, you know. I didn't know. I have to wait to be in the editing room to try to see with the editor if it works or not. And actually it works very well, but it's a moment of distance, you know, because the actors are watching at the camera, so it's very artificial. So it's always a risk. But I think there is the truth of the situation, which is more important than the reality of the situation. You know, it's the third time I do the adaptation of a play. I did with Waterdrops of Burning Rock, which was a play by Fassbinder. I did it already with Eight Women, which was a play. And in the two first adaptations, I wanted to assume, not the word assume, do you say assume? To accept the fact it was theatrical material. I didn't want to escape of that. For Potiche, it's quite different because it's a story of an emancipation, and I had the feeling I had to be in my mise en scène very close to the character of Suzanne Pujol, to follow her, and because it's there is a journey. My way of filming her is changing during the film. At the beginning, it's quite very artificial. I accept the fact it comes from a play. You know, it's quite theatrical. All what happens in the house. And after she escaped of this world, she discovered the world. She discovered the factory. She discovered the flat of Babin. She go outside, and I follow her. And the film is more and more realistic. And the idea of the film, for example, was to begin the film in a very artificial way when she's in the forest jogging. She's like Snow White in the film of Walt Disney. And at the end, it's like a documentary about Catherine Deneuve. You know, and I wanted to do this journey and try to change my way of watching the character. I think it's my telephone. Sorry.
Pardon.
Je croyais que l'avoir éteint, mais je ne l'ai pas fait. Qui c'est? C'est Catherine Deneuve. Voilà. So,
welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you for rejoining me.
One of my, in the melodrama, I'm a big fan of the film by Douglas Sirk. You know, Imitation of Life, it's one of my favorite movies. For the farce, there are many comedies I like. There is I love the Italian comedies of the 70s. There is one with Bette Davis by Luigi Comencini. In French, it's called L'Argent de la Vieille. I don't know if you know this film in England. It's a very good film about poor people. It's with Nino Manfredi and Silvana Mangano and Bette Davis. And it's poor Italian people who each year are very poor. They play poker with a milliardaire. What's it?
With a millionaire.
With a millionaire, with an American, and she plays with them. And each year they think they will win. And it's always the American who wins. The old American, it's Bette Davis. And you have to see the film because it's really a very good comedy, very satirical and very social and political at the same time. A film studio, you mean a film studio in America?
Anywhere.
I'm not very interested in power, actually, you know. As a director, I just want to do films. I am not a producer. You know, the power in cinema is more for producer than for director. When you are a director, of course, you have the important thing is to have the final cut. But, you know, it's a collective work. You need people to work with you, so I'm the boss, but I'm a boss like Suzanne Pujol, you know. I'm like a mother with my workers. I try to be.